you're not doing it right. Like, you're not actually artsy. You're not actually a nice guy if you have to, like, really insist and drive that home.
You understand that to some extent I'm winding you up a little bit here.
I know, because you do enjoy it.
Well, it's also good content. Hello and welcome to Steam Powered Movies. I am your host, Mike, and I'm here with your other host.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's a lot more energy than I can deal with right now. Hello, my name is Dana Fraedrich. I'm a steampunk and fantasy author, and I am a little bit tipsy.
Okay.
Quite aggravated, and we're gonna do this. We are powering through.
Oh my goodness. I think it's gonna be a good one.
Oh my gosh. I literally wrote while we were watching this movie, I need more alcohol. And,
no.
And also, there is not enough alcohol to save this movie.
Oh no. I mean, and we have a lot of alcohol.
I'm not going to lie. I still want to be drinking.
Oh my goodness.
I thought about getting myself a little glass of
Should
gin.
we
I was
pause
like, no,
and
Dana.
get more?
No, because I need some kind of coherence while doing this.
Yes.
And like, 2-drink Dana thinks it's a great idea. 3-drink Dana would be a very different energy.
I want your thoughts on this. And by this, I mean the movie we watched tonight.
Indeed. Which is new. It's a pretty new movie.
It's a new film. It came out at the end of last year. It's called Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, who won an Oscar for her role in this film.
Okay.
Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe. And it was directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who we will discuss more later. So that's the movie we watched. But before we get into all of that, a couple announcements for you all.
Please do.
In this month of April, Dana has several events coming up.
Woo!
Yeah, so if you want to come see her in person, buy some books, buy some crafty things that she makes.
Also, there are a bunch of very cool entertainers and other vendors, so check them all out.
Yeah, also other people besides Dana, but mostly Dana. She's going to be at the Chicago Steampunk Expo, April 12th through 14th in Schaumburg, Illinois. That's near Chicago. Also, the Telltale Steampunk Festival, April 20th through 21st in the Baltimore Pikesville area. And then early next month, May 4th and 5th, she'll be at Geek Craft Columbus in Columbus, Ohio. So if you're in those areas, come check it out. Come say hi.
It's a full calendar, y'all. Baltimore, Chicago, and Columbus, Ohio. I'm all over the place.
Yep. Also, want to remind you all that we now have a Discord where you can join and you can talk to us. You can make recommendations for steampunk movies for us to watch and talk about.
Also, just bring your silly memes. There's never a bad time for silly memes.
Oh, yeah. No, I want to see all the silly memes. Please bring them to me.
Indeed.
Bring them to the Discord. The link to that Discord is going to be in the description of this podcast. Check it out. Join. Say hi. We look forward to it. Now, Dana. This is a podcast called Steam Powered Movies.
Indeed.
Where you and I, Mike and Dana, we watch a steampunk movie.
Sure do.
And then we talk about it.
Indeed.
And tonight we did that.
Oh boy, do I have things to talk about.
So we watched Poor Things.
I got notes and notes and notes.
No, you were furiously notating the entire film. Directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. I did not know if you knew that going in. Oh,
no. I knew a bit as to what we were... what to expect, but let's talk about initial expectations.
Yeah. I was just going to set up that like he, as a director, has done some off-the-wall things that we've seen previously.
That's a description.
Such as The Lobster, a completely bonkers film.
Which I hated. Just to put that out there, I hated that movie.
But we kind of talked about it for a while after it was over.
This is what pisses me off. This is what really makes me annoyed. I hate that we talked about it.
It was thought-provoking. Also, The Favorite.
Which I did actually kind of like. Like, it was a very interesting film. I think I did watch it twice.
Yeah?
Because I think I watched it with you and I watched it some other time before. But
we definitely watched it together.
I think I think I saw it in a theater or something first.
Perhaps.
Anyway. I didn't hate it.
So
the way I hated The Lobster.
I knew we were in for something weird. Tell me what you were expecting going into watching this film.
Okay, like knowing this particular director's style, I was expecting something very, and I put this in like big florid letters, artsy. And it was in kind of the worst way possible, but we'll get to that. I was cautiously optimistic because I did like The Fabric, and I was wrong. I was so wrong. You literally looked over at me at one point and went, "You look like you're in pain." And I was like, "That's because I am."
Yeah. I was like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah. And that's when you paused to go make popcorn and cocktails.
Yes.
And
I
I needed a palate cleanser. So I watched silly TikTok videos, and Nicole Alexis, Dylan Hollis, and Mr. Williams are my saviors. Because I needed that break in the middle of it.
And to be precise, that break was pretty much exactly after the film turned from black and white to color. So for those of you that watched the film, that was the point where Dana needed the palate cleanser. So,
big sigh.
I wrote down an expectation. I knew like a little bit about this film coming in.
What did you know?
I knew that it was about like a childlike mind learning about the world and growing up. And there was some exploration of human experiences. That's all that I knew. I didn't know the detail into which those experiences would go.
Listeners, you can't see it. This is not a visual medium, but I am giving Mike such a look.
So I wrote something down, though. I wrote down Emma Stone is some kind of Frankenstein/automaton.
Oh my gosh, I actually wrote something down similar, but please continue your thought.
And learns how to be human in a young woman's body.
Okay.
Maybe there's an airship ?
Okay, so I wrote, like in the beginning, I wrote, what if Frankenstein's monster got his, and at first I wrote like his wife ? And then we learned that was not the case. And then I saw across it and I went, a daughter? Oh my gosh. And I just have to say, because it does have a lot of like Frankenstein's monster vibes. I am going to go ahead and put this out there. Anyone who feels like they need to may fight me. I cordially invite you. Bring your own horse. We will joust on the battlefield at dawn.
Wow, this is serious.
Mary Shelley did it better.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
And I will fight that fight. I will die on that hill.
Okay.
I will argue this point.
Okay. Although I do think that this film is more like if Frankenstein's monster then created something as an experiment.
I said Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah. So it's like the sequel, maybe? There were hints at to like who his father was that we didn't get.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, like his father was horrible and cruel, just like Frankenstein himself.
Right.
And then we have Frankenstein's monster who then creates a daughter. Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
That's pretty much exactly what like the frame I put it in.
Okay.
Again,
yeah.
Mary Shelley did it better.
So we were both right. There was an airship. There were a couple of airships.
There were a couple of airships. There was also a monorail.
In one shot.
The monorail and the airships, honestly, were like one of my favorite parts.
Well, of course.
But we'll get to the world building.
There were some of the steampunk elements.
Yeah.
That make this a movie that we would talk about. So one of the things we talk about is, as you know, Bob, steampunk is set usually in the Victorian era.
Or a Victorian-esque era in this case.
Yes.
I got from the really big sleeves, I very much got like late 1880s, early 1890s kind of time frame.
Which still fits.
Yeah, it totally does. So I definitely got that, but I also got very much like not the world we're in, but like a lot of similarities with the world we're in, and I have notes on that, but carry on.
Yeah. And there is some sort of science fiction-y sort of element based on usually advanced steam-powered type of technology.
Yeah.
Or machines.
Indeed.
Or modes of transport. And we definitely have some of that in this film. It was set, I mean, it started out in Victorian London. Ish.
Again, the sleeves itself, you have to understand that silhouette with those huge sleeves is very, very distinct. Again, late 1880s, early 1890s, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Although we did not have the bustles that I expected, which is a disappointment.
Well,
But,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Sorry for your lack of bustles.
I mean, she was wearing a bustle, like when she was sort of trotting around the house, but like out and about in the world, I was not seeing the appropriate amount of bustlage. Just saying.
Okay. One of the first things we see that is sort of a steampunky thing is a steam carriage.
Yes, the horse-headed, horseless,
Yes.
steam-powered, horseless carriage.
Yes. I thought it was funny.
It was actually really funny. Like I did like that. I thought that was a neat touch.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
And then there was one shot when they were in Lisbon,
Mhm.
Portugal.
Yeah.
Lisbon, I put in air quotes because it was, I don't know, it was kind of just like Wonderland. It was all weird and
Ooh,
not
boy.
realistic.
Yeah, they really man, they did not pay for sets. They did not pay for on-location filming, did they? They were like, we'll just CGI this in.
I think that was on purpose. I think it was purposefully made to look fantastical and fake because it was some sort of like adventure into what is not the real world. I don't know. Like it felt very stylized on purpose, if you know what I mean.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong, but I already like, oh my gosh, I'm already so annoyed with this film that like it gets difficult to like sort of start to parse those things out where it's like, just screw it. Like it's all just.
Well, we might be the reverse of last episode then, where I'll keep it a little bit grounded, and you can give us all of your frustration.
Right. Oh boy, there's a lot. I literally have pages. I'm not even making that up.
So that one shot, there were airships, and then they had the trams that ran in the sky,
And I have to say,
and throughout quote unquote Lisbon, Portugal.
honestly, that was like a breath of fresh air because I seriously love a good public transit system. Like,
Yeah.
I grew up with the DC Metro. Like,
Mhm.
that is my expectation. Like, I expect of all major cities a DC Metro level of public transport. And if you are not meeting that, you are messing up. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at you, Nashville, Tennessee, our hometown. Get it together. But I digress.
Do you love a good, like, Frankenstein created thing like a goose dog? Or maybe a dog goose?
That was okay.
Or a rooster that barks?
That wasn't cute. That wasn't fun. That was okay. It was very like Island of Dr. Moreau.
Uh-huh.
I got those kind of vibes a lot, and I feel like this director was, if not influenced by that, very much trying to go for that kind of vibe with Willem Dafoe's character,
Mm-hmm.
Godwin,
Yeah.
of like, oh, he just sort of,
Who Emma Stone just called God.
yeah, which,
Non-ironically, I think.
yeah, no, it has its own problems. I'm telling you, oh my gosh.
Deep sigh.
Like literally every time something like this comes up, I want to take a shot of gin. This is going to be a rough episode.
So I feel like the setup and even a lot of this movie,
Mhm.
I think a solid 2/3 of this movie had the intended effect upon you, in that it was intentionally setting up a scenario and a world that is undesirable
Okay.
and unfair and ugly in a lot of ways.
Let me stop you right there.
Okay.
We live in that world. I am all too aware of that. But, okay, here's the deal. All right. I'm just going to get right into it, y'all. This is spoilers for this movie. If you have not seen it, watch the movie first and then come back because we're about to dig right in, okay?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
All
get
right.
to it.
Here's the deal. He is in Willem Dafoe's character in his sort of Dr. Frankenstein-ish role, but also kind of like Frankenstein who has become the thing that he hated kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
Has literally, like, this isn't even a metaphor, literally taken the mind of an unborn baby, like literally the brain out of the head
Mm-hmm.
of an like 9-ish in the womb month baby and put it inside of the skull of a grown woman.
Mm-hmm.
That's the premise of the film, folks.
Yeah.
That's how it all started.
Yeah.
That's not even a metaphor. That's literally what happened.
No, it's not a metaphor.
And then this sort of child in the body of a grown woman is sort of going through life. Like when we first meet Emma Stone's character, she's very much like a toddler.
I would say less than toddler, but...
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay.
But as I said, she was advancing quickly.
That, not good enough.
Yeah.
That's not good enough.
No.
This is beyond problematic because then all of these adult ass men who should know better, and basically I'm just going to say it right now, all of the men in this film, except for Mr. Astley, are predators. End of story. They are all predators and they ought to know better, but they don't, and that's on
Mr.
them.
Astley being Harry, the
gent on the cruise ship.
Yeah,
the black gent.
Yeah, the friend of the lady
of
that
Martha,
she makes. Martha, that's
who
right.
Who is my favorite character.
I thought so.
We'll get to that. So, but all of these other men, they are all predators.
Yes.
Like, she literally has a child's mind because she has a baby's brain inside of her skull.
Yes.
And like, we just go on like, yeah, I'll marry you. Oh yeah, I'll have sex with you. Like, this is so problematic.
Yeah.
It's so not okay. Which,
right.
I was texting some friends while we were watching the film.
Okay.
And my friend Scout texted back, "Oh, that movie sucked." Like with multiple U's.
Okay. I would put to you that all of that you described, the men being horrible, is on purpose.
No, I know. Okay, I wrote down a note here. And I said, okay, I get that this is all like a lesson for us to learn about like how horrible men are and just like about all of the awful things in the world and therefore take note. And like, it's sort of like a tale of like female empowerment. But I gotta say, as someone who has lived in that world her whole life, you've done it badly. You've done it very badly.
Okay.
I don't care how bloody artsy you are because it does open. Oh, the artsy fartsiness in the opening. Like you just know, oh boy, we're in for a ride.
Yeah.
Like with like the embroidery of like the various scenes from the film on like white cloth. It's all very symbolic. It's all very artsy. We know you're like trying to be deep and poignant.
I mean,
director man.
If you open a film in black and white in the year 2023, you know that's on purpose.
You know what though? You know what? Okay, I am fired up, y'all.
Wow. I've never seen you on this level before.
I'm so frustrated because all of these people who think I'm so artsy fartsy, I'm so deep, I'm so clever. No, you're pretentious. You're pretentious and you're doing it badly. Okay. Let me just first address just the black and white thing because, okay, black and white, blah, blah, blah. It's artsy, whatever, blah. Okay.
Yeah.
The most recent, I think it's the most recent version anyway. The Apple Plus edition of Macbeth with Denzel Washington. That was all in black and white.
Okay.
So I'm not saying it can't, like, I'm not saying it's, you know, a bad thing to do something in black and white. I'm not saying it like doesn't serve a purpose. But this film is very much like, oh, don't you see? Don't you see how artsy this is? This isn't just a movie. It's a film.
You're right. It's not just a movie. It's a film.
Yeah, this is very much trying to put itself forth as a film.
Yeah. But I mean, they do set up very clearly, not subtly. Like it's not a subtle metaphor that they're setting forth in the beginning about how men infantilize women. And I think there's, I can't quite put it to words. I think there's something interesting there about commentating on men infantilizing women by portraying like, well, what if it was a literal infant's brain in that body and you were treating it the same way? How wrong that would be.
No, I get the
how
metaphor.
Weird that would be.
Yeah, I get that metaphor.
I said not subtle. again, can't put it to words. There's something kind of interesting there. They, from the very beginning, you're right, all of the men are just predators. And even the very first scene, like probably the man besides Harry that is the presented as less problematic, the guy that she ends up engaged to.
Candle something.
Yeah, Candlestick Face or whatever.
I don't think that was his name, but it's Candle something.
I don't remember the names.
Yeah.
He meets her for the very first time. He is told right away that she has the literal mind of a child.
Yeah.
And his first comment is, she is stunning.
I know.
Yeah.
And also, this movie commits the sin of like, oh, you're not like other girls. What the F is wrong with other girls? Tell me. Go on. Explain it to me. What the F is wrong with other girls? And that, like, it commits the sin of she's special. Well, there's also a huge power imbalance happening here.
Oh, throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're special because I can take advantage of you. That's what we're getting at.
Yeah. I mean, it has a lot of the tropes of, men treating women badly. The part where the two men are sitting in a room deciding if they should tell her or not and like deciding her fate while she has no idea what's going on. The part where the guy who gets engaged to her says she must desire it also. And then Willem Dafoe is like, oh yeah, I guess that too. I guess there's two conditions then.
No, I get it. I get it. Like,
again, not subtle at all.
Okay.
But that was all very much on purpose. And your reaction, I think the director would be happy with your reaction to the opening of the film.
Do not mistake my reaction for doing a good job. Okay? Because here's the difference. This director is very much writing a film as like the way a man sees the solution to the problem. Let me explain it to you, people. Let me tell you how it is, but without subtlety, but without actually giving a woman agency until the very end. I can give you a slew of female directors who have done it way better. A really good recent example is the Barbie movie, funny enough, which was brilliant and kind of just encompassed so many of these problems in 1 2-hour film.
They were definitely two films tackling a very similar idea behind them of, what if looking at the way that women fit into the world was approached from a fresh perspective.
It's not fresh.
Well,
it's not fresh. It's ham-fisted and it's poorly done.
Well, no, I mean like in the film, it's like someone who is childlike or has no experience with the world, sees the world and sees it how it is and is able to critique it sharply and not bend to people's pushback and speak their mind. Things that the Barbie movie and this film both are attempting to do. Like, it's I think it's kind of an ambitious thing to try to do. Your mileage may vary on how the execution panned out.
Okay, here's the intrinsic difference between the way the Barbie movie did it and the way this film did it.
Okay.
In the Barbie movie, we are receiving that message from a woman who has lived in the real world her entire life and has dealt with all of the BS. Just encompass like big hand wave, all of the BS. And then explains it in a concise, encapsulating way. Whereas in this...
You're talking about like the mom character in Barbie.
Correct. Yeah. Whereas in this, we are receiving that message from what is ostensibly an unreliable narrator. We're receiving it from the woman who has literally had an infant's brain installed into her own skull and therefore kind of undermines the power of her message. Like, I get it. Like, oh, she's wiser than the rest of us with her innocence and clarity, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get that. But like, again, you're doing a bad job because she doesn't come off as a very reliable, experienced narrator.
Okay.
And that's
you think that's
part
important?
of the problem. Yes, I do. Because she hasn't actually lived in the world as a woman her entire life going through all of the normal experiences that the rest of us has. And again, it suffers from that sin of like, you're not like the other girls. You're not like the other girls who have like lived this and done this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that other women who haven't been just cloistered from society. Like, that's not the problem. Like, us not being hidden away and locked up is the problem. It's suddenly that like, oh, this girl who is like, have been experimented on and traumatized and whatnot, who has like never actually like lived this life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that she shouldn't be listened to, but like, she's not had the experience, and even the experiences she does have in the film of like having to work as a sex worker in order to pay her way through the world. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, that is a good slice of experience, but it's not a lifetime of experience.
No.
And that's part of the problem with her as like sort of like the person teaching us a lesson.
Interesting. Okay. I can see that you think you need someone with more experience actually coming to conclusions about things. And I could see how...
Who has like grown up with all of this stuff and internalized all of it and had to deal with it literally their entire lives, from like birth and coming up as a child and being out in the world day after day and dealing with this stuff.
Right. Whereas I think that the Barbie movie does provide that with a character of experience and also a character of inexperience looking at the world and be like, why is it like this? But this movie more just has the one character observing how the world is and experiencing it for the first time, being like, well, this doesn't make sense. Why is it like this? And it's trying to address, I can't think of the word right now, the kind of bias. There's a kind of bias where like things have always been this way. So you have our brains have a bias towards that's the way things are, right? Whereas if you approached a certain problem or a way things are organized from a fresh perspective, you would never organize things in the way that they are done right now. I am not wording this very well. I am not wordsing great in a vocal words medium of podcasting. But I think that's what this film is trying to do, more just from the pure, like, if you looked at the world and how it's organized, you wouldn't do it this way from scratch. If you wanted it to be fair to everyone, you would do things differently.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're doing. But again, there's just some huge, like, contextual chunks missing. So, and I think a good example of this, and very much a thing that shows this issue, is, so there's the part where Mr. Astley has like shown her poverty and like just the pain of living in this world. And then she has the audacity to tell him, a black man in the world, that like, oh, you're a sad, broken child. It's like, girl, this is not your place to be telling him his experience. He's lived in the world a lot longer than you and has dealt with things that you have no idea about. Don't be telling him what his problem is. Yeah. And like that stuck out to me like a sore thumb. I'm like, oh, no. This is not your place. I think this is very much the director like being up his own butt and being like, oh, but like, I see the world in a different way, and I'm going to like deliver this message through this unique and iconic character. And again, when you're up your own butt, it's hard to see. It's hard to see things clearly.
He did try to do kind of everything. Like, he tried to basically break down like the entire existence of humans in this one film through the eyes of this character. And you're right, definitely bit off more than he could chew as far as the quantity of like issues to tackle. Like even throwing in the thing about like women who are abused and like manipulative relationships, where that character Harry asks Bella, why do you stay with him? And she's like, I always think it'll be better. Like
that is the great lie that everyone in abusive relationships tell themselves. Right.
But that's just like another like big major issue he's trying to tackle in like a 5-minute scene. Right. And that is I think ambitious is one word that you could say.
That's generous, but okay.
Yeah, if you are being kind.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there were some funny quotes. It's a very quotable film. And like one-liners.
I like wrote down one that I liked.
I thought there were quite a few good one-liners.
The only one that I really wrote down was, technically, you are your baby and you are your mother.
Wow.
That's the only quote I wrote down because my gosh, like that sort of sums up how bonkers this film is.
That's the only one you wrote down?
That's the only one I wrote down.
I had a few. I had the one where Mark Ruffalo is trying to show her how to eat a tart or something. And she said, I would guess by the mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite good.
Like some of the things are like kind of obvious, but like that was pretty clever.
And I will say, as much as, oh my gosh, Mark Ruffalo, he was playing such a prick.
Oh, yeah.
The prickiest of pricks.
Yeah.
But good job, my man. Like, you're nailing it. Like, he's such a good actor that I was like, oh, I hate you so much. But also, Mark Ruffalo, nice work. Good job. Like, you're really making me feel it.
That is the conundrum of, like, playing a terrible character, is that when you do it really well, people hate you.
Yeah. I felt the same way about Matt Smith when he played Mr. Collins in Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, Mr. Collins, you're the worst. But also, what a nice job, Matt Smith. Okay. little like golf clap.
I had a few other quotes.
Go on.
I have to punch that baby.
That was quite good.
Right.
Sometimes, I feel like everyone has felt that and no one wants to admit it.
I feel like that phase of the film I found maybe the most effective, where she was like, why can't I just say what I think? Why can't these things just be like, this food tastes bad? Why do I have to eat it?
Yeah.
Why do I have to be polite? Like,
it was very much that thing of like, oh, she's turned out to be exactly the way she presented herself when you first met her, and now you're mad about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, all the reasons Mark Ruffalo was mad were, like, bad.
The dumbest.
Yeah, and totally double standardy. Like, he even said that it was, like, an understatement that he only had the scent of 100 women on him. But she sees one other guy, and he completely falls to pieces.
Yeah.
Like, literally, he falls to pieces and can't handle it. And as another quote I wrote down, she says, he is a pretty moron.
That's accurate. Or was that Mr. Astley who says that? I feel like it was Mr. Astley.
No, that was her.
It was her?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was Bella's description of Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
Talking to Mr. Astley.
Okay.
Yeah. There was, I feel this conversation has become circular.
That
was another good quote.
That's very accurate to life.
Cheese to meet you.
That was a good joke. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I am finding being alive fascinating.
It always is.
Yep. Watching this movie was fascinating.
Watching this movie was a trial.
Again, I found there was quite a few funny quotes in the film. And some of the scenes were effective. But yeah, they really tried to do a whole lot. Can you think of anything that you did like?
I did love Martha. She was the old lady on the ship.
Yes.
On the cruise ship. Martha is the sort of friend I always want to have. And in fact, I have had friends like Martha in my life who have proven to be just as strong allies as Martha was.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad that like she didn't keep in touch with Martha, it seemed. Although she did remain friends with Toinette, who was the other sex worker with her at the brothel.
Yep.
So that did make me happy. I was glad to see her at the end. And hopefully, she did remain pen pals with Martha. But like, what my one favorite scene of the movie, and there were not many to choose from. But,
I wonder if it's what I was just about to say.
I'm 100% sure it is.
Okay.
Like where Emma Stone's character, she's like reading a book, and Mark Ruffalo like throws it overboard, and Martha just hands her another book to start reading, and I'm like, yes, these are the kind of friends we need.
I can confirm Dana was cackling at that scene, and I had to go back because I looked away for a second. I was like, wait, did I miss something?
That was literally the only part that made me happy.
I like the scene right after that where Mark Ruffalo was so mad at Martha. He was like, I'm going to throw you overboard. And she was in her chair, and he was trying to like drag her chair. Okay, not only he was dragging her chair towards the railing, not only was that railing didn't go to the sea.
No,
that
it like
railing
went down to like the next deck.
Exactly. Like even if he had succeeded in throwing her over that railing, she would have just landed on the deck below.
Yeah.
Maybe have been injured, but like not in the sea as he intended. And she was like, "Ooh, I've never been attempted to be murdered before.
Let's do it." Yeah.
She was just completely nonplussed and like, "Oh, like I'd like to see you try." Kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And of course he was unsuccessful.
Yeah, like the crew came and stopped him, and then she popped him in the throat with her cane, and that was just chef's kiss.
That was basically the end of his character doing anything interesting.
It was yeah. After that, he just like crumbled and was sad because fragile male egos, which are prolific throughout this film.
Oh yeah, so fragile. And then he brings the general.
Oh right, her Archie, her apparently husband from her old life.
Right, her body's old life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you notice all of the guns in the dining room?
Yeah.
I will also say it's a poor play on the part of the director. Like, oh, baddie has a Doberman. Like, okay, enough with like the bad dog breeds. I thought we got over this in like the 80s or the 90s. Like where we, always give the baddie like one of these like mean dog breeds. And I'm doing that in air quotes, like the Rottweilers, the Dobermans, the German Shepherds.
Yeah.
Like all of the dogs made of like triangles, basically.
They're all
that
sweet.
Like look super mean. And they're also like, they're all just sweethearts. Have you ever met a Rottweiler? They just want to be your buddy.
Yeah. I met several pit bulls who are just
oh my gosh,
the
pit bulls are the sweetest. I work out with a pit bull every other week.
Yeah.
And she's just the best.
Yeah. No, he was like cartoonishly bad.
Oh, he was, yeah.
So bad. And he said that like their bond was over being mean to the servants.
Yeah.
Which seems weird.
Like, I wonder why she killed herself. Maybe she hated her life with you. Maybe.
Yeah. Oh, no. He had that quote where like, oh, I'm sure you'll be as happy as before. And she was like, you mean when I threw myself off a bridge?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, that seems so happy.
Like that happy? Yeah. So happy. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just another character man who wanted to trap her and put her in a... Like, they all did that.
Yeah.
They all...
Again, every man besides Mr. Astley was a predator.
Yeah. But he was a cartoon. And then at the very end, as I predicted seconds before, he got a goat brain.
Oh, yeah. Like you saw it set up, like the goat sitting there.
Yeah. Like she pulled out the book, like, I'm going to transplant your brain. And then we're thinking, oh, what brain is he going to get? And for a second right after that, I thought she was going to put her father figure's Willem Dafoe's brain into his body, maybe to let him have a second life. But no, he got the goat brain.
I actually like that wasn't the case because that would be a bit of I've become the thing that is awful, basically. Like not the thing I hate because she didn't hate him, but it was bad. It was bad what he was doing.
Right. No, he was skillful and he was a good scientist.
Well, he was very good at science. I don't know that to say he was a good scientist.
Right. He was good at science, but yeah, what he was doing was not good.
Yeah.
It was correct for him to like die off and not be part of the picture anymore. Yeah. I think that was a good call.
He was very much that, and again, very sci-fi, thematically correct, kind of like mad scientist, like we are pushing the bounds of science beyond where they should in fact go. Like combining, like putting like the head of a pig on a chicken, that's beyond where we need to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, putting the brain of an infant inside of the skull of a grown woman.
Oh, and as he describes in the beginning, it was obvious. The solution was obvious.
Yep.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Like, and to hear him talk, he clearly has a bunch of trauma to work through and all of that. So
yeah. And clearly at the end, like she was the bigger person in her treatment of him. And I don't know, there's probably something deep and psychological about it that like she was created by him and like raised by him, but terribly. And then she went away, had her own experiences, and then came back and kind of appreciated him and was kind to him in his dying days. Again, I'm not a deep enough thinker to figure out what that's really saying, but
I mean,
there's something there.
I don't put any stock in this director's judgment of like good milestones or like what is artistic or deep, because when she started having like full on intercourse with this dude who sexually assaulted her was when like the movie started to be in color, and that's supposed to be like, oh, she was awakened. Like, guess what? Like, being taken advantage of and sexually assaulted isn't an awakening. Funny enough.
Yeah.
Like when she met Toinette and she started, or like when she met Martha and she started having these healthy relationships with other people who weren't trying to take advantage of her and in fact were trying to look out for her. That might have been the time where color came into her life.
Yeah, I think maybe in a more appropriate moment would have been when they were in Lisbon and she had like left the room during the siesta time and Mark Ruffalo was asleep. And she just walked out into the square and there was a lady playing an instrument and singing in the square.
Living her own dang life.
Right. I feel like that was more of a turning point where that was actually the first other female character in the film that wasn't a servant, basically.
Or like wasn't somehow connected to a man.
Right. That was the first other female character like doing her own thing. And the camera paused on that for a long time and like focused on Emma Stone's face watching her for a long time. And you're right, from that point on, a little later on, she meets Martha. She meets her friend in the brothel.
Toinette.
Like she makes those other real connections. I think I'm with you. I think that scene would have been a more appropriate time to switch to color. That she was really awakened and becoming like more of a fully realized person. Which by the end, like she pretty much was like kind of in control of herself and understood the way the world works and was kind of an adult at the end of the film. Yeah.
Also, another reason I don't really trust this director as a storyteller. So a lot of times in the writing world, you know, there's talk of like, okay, what story are you telling? And watching this film, seeing how it's presented and all of the problematic ways that this story is presented. Because again, like, here's the thing. It's like, yes, this is set supposedly in a time where we weren't as, or at least for the most part, we weren't as civilized, though. Never make the mistake. There were always suffragettes. There were always abolitionists. There were always people who looked at the way society ran and said, absolutely not. This is not the way it should be.
Oh, yeah.
But I digress.
Sure.
So we are a modern audience. And I understand that this is sort of constructed in like a fantastical-ish 1880s,
90-ish,
like late 19th century kind of era where we did, as the society, act differently. But again, like, know your audience. But
there were air trams and airships.
Yeah, there's that. But like, okay, so, but why does this story need to be told in this way? And that's why another reason I don't really trust this director is like the way that you've told this story, like you don't really have anyone calling out the issues with it. You don't really have anyone calling out like, this is assault. This is a crime. And there's nothing happening like that. So I just think it's like, mate, like you've chosen a story to tell that maybe absolutely really doesn't need to be told like this. It doesn't need to be told in this format. This is not the way that this sort of story needs to be told.
Yeah, I think I can see that for sure in the part that's dealing with the like sexual awakening. Is
eye roll, huge eye roll about that.
Yeah, it
falls under that thing of like, oh, once you have sex, like you're a woman. Or just stop with that.
I think what he was trying to do was like, well, what if you approach it from a purely clinical perspective, like this character who doesn't have experience can look at it as, but it does overlook the assault piece of it.
Funny that.
And it does become a bit indulgent in the amount it's shown on screen.
I would say, yeah, indulgent is a gracious word for that. Gratuitous is the word that I would use. Because my gosh, there's a lot of sex in this. Like, you see literally all the bits. Every single bit that exists, you see that on screen.
Yep.
But,
and not just once.
No, multiple times.
Multiple times, yeah.
It's artsy, though, Mike. It's so artsy.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely think that part of it was the least well handled, and probably badly.
Also, just do your sodding research. First of all, if you want her to have some distinction between her being a proper lady and a not proper lady, have her hair up. Proper ladies in that era would have their hair up. They would never have their hair down and long the way that she did all the time. That could be very symbolic if you want to be artsy about it.
That was probably on purpose then, for her to be like,
no, I just don't think he did his research. I'm sorry. I have no credence for this director at all. I think he was just like, okay, whatever. Mwah.
My question, a question for someone who knows the Victorian era. Did people swear like Mark Ruffalo does in this film?
Okay,
then?
That's the thing. Victorians absolutely swore. Yeah.
In the same way that like modern us do?
I don't know, because we don't have recordings of
the words
them.
that he used, which I don't want to say on this podcast.
No.
Yeah,
because then we'll have to mark it as explicit. No, like the
or I'll have to do some
Victorians,
editing, which I don't want to do.
The Victorians absolutely did swear, and in fact, they had much more creative swears than we do. In fact, I have a dictionary of Victorian slang up on my computer as we speak. I keep it open whenever I'm working on a book.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. And they had some very creative swears. But yes, they absolutely did also swear the same way that we do. They had the F word. They had various other anatomy-based insults.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That answers my question.
But also, again, do your sodding research. So I actually did have to look this up for the book I'm working on right now. The whole chloroform thing where you put a cloth over someone's face and they just sort of instantly pass out.
It's
not
work.
a thing.
No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, because I looked that up for the book I'm working on. It's like, is this work? Like, is this realistic? And every single piece of research I found was like, no, it takes 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's
it
prolonged exposure.
Yeah.
Or ingestion, maybe. But yeah.
It's such a thing. Like so many people do it. Like, it's basically kind of a known thing, in kind of the same way that a reading of the will is just a thing in literature now. Apparently it's not a thing. No, reading of the wills don't happen.
No, it's an invention of Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, I do like a reading of the will scene. It's very dramatic.
Oh, it's funny though, with chloroform scenes, I feel like the films have tried to make those scenes a little bit longer. Like, it used to be you put a chloroform cloth on someone's face and they instantly pass out.
Out.
But in this film or films nowadays, it's it takes 10 seconds.
Sure.
Instead of 2. So they're trying to be more quote unquote realistic.
Yeah, no, it's not realistic.
But yeah, it's not a thing. It's totally not a thing.
Also, just in regards to things being artsy, one last note, the weird fisheye lens that we use now and again.
Yeah.
We get it. You're super artsy. Okay. Oh my gosh, you're so artsy.
So that didn't work for you?
You're trying way too hard.
You didn't find that as an interesting way to break up the visuals or to highlight certain scenes as something going on?
That to me has the same energy as someone being like, I'm a super nice guy. I'm so nice. I'm such a nice guy. Mate, if you got to tell people, it's I'm so artsy. I use this fisheye lens. I'm so artsy. If you got to tell people, you're not doing it right. You're not actually artsy. You're not actually a nice guy. If you have to really insist and drive that home.
You understand that to some extent I'm winding you up a little bit here. Right?
I know, because you do enjoy it.
Well, it's also good content.
I understand.
Well,
this is a good bit of media to be wound up about, though. If I'm going to spend my energy being annoyed, this is a really good one.
Well, you know what? I think some would say then that the art was successful.
Oh, naff off.
It elicited
Stop.
a strong emotional reaction in you.
Oh
it doesn't have to be positive.
I hate this so much.
If you have a strong negative reaction, that's what art does, Dana. When something is artistic, it elicits a response.
I will put pepper in your underwear.
She is staring daggers at me, folks. I should be dead right now. Instead, though, let's rate this film.
Okay, let's do it.
We rate films not based on our credentials as professional film critics, because that's not what we are. We're just two people talking about a movie we watched. We first rate based on how steampunk a film is. So on a scale from 1 to 5 steam engines, how steampunk is the movie Poor Things, Dana?
Okay, so it actually got a lot of points for the monorail, the hot air balloons, the steamship, which we didn't even talk about.
Oh, yeah.
All of these things are really great, and I really love it. And the steam-powered horseless carriage. These are all awesome. Like, I would almost give it a 5 out of 5, except the anachronistic clothing choices. Like, we had the big sleeves, which was very cool. We had, like, ruffled blouses. We had all the men in, like, some nice suits and things, although we are missing cravats, but that's by the by. But, like, then we had these, like, weird, like, skirts situations on Emma Stone that like shouldn't even exist. Like she wore bloomers at one point, which was accurate, but like the skirts are just like really weird out of the blue. And she had like a short, like above the knee length skirt at one point. And honestly, that was like, why are you doing? I feel like you just like want to like have her in like cute, like less modest clothing because
I think you landed on it. Yeah.
So
I think that's the reasoning.
So I'm taking it down to 3 out of 5 because of that.
And they were trying to probably, maybe if you ask them, excuse it as, oh, it's a fantastical world, not ours. So it doesn't have to be accurate.
And I wrote a note about this because I said, look, I get fantastical worlds. I get anachronistic type things when it's done intentionally. I have anachronistic elements in my books because it is not actually our world.
Right.
However, it needs to be consistent in the world building. Like all of the other female characters were kind of in line with that late 19th century fashion. And then there's just her like doing something completely different and no one is batting an eyelash. And that's not consistent with the world building that you've done.
But she's special, Dana.
Mike, don't you dare.
Okay. I'll stop.
So
I was thinking 4.
I'm giving it 3.
3.5?
Okay, that's how averages work.
Okay.
If you want to have that.
All right. This is a 3.5 steam engines. Even though I think it was docked half a steam engine because Dana didn't like it. But we're gonna stick with 3.5. That's our official rating. And then also we rate films on how much we just enjoyed watching the film. And Dana, you're gonna rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 gears. How much did you enjoy Poor Things?
0.
That's not a number between 1 and 5.
I give it 0.
Oh my goodness.
I hated watching this film. There was a point where you asked me if we needed to continue because I hated it so much.
I was a bit worried that you maybe didn't want to even finish it.
I thought about it, but as I told you while we're sitting here, I'm not a quitter.
No.
So
folks,
I powered through.
She's no quitter.
But I'm giving it 0.
This is unprecedented, folks.
0.
This is a 0 rating from Dana. I am going to now come up with a rating of 1 to 5 top hats.
Don't let me bully you into it. And I realize I have strong opinions.
You have given it a 0.
Yeah, I have.
And said you hated it.
Yeah, I did.
I am going to
you asked me because
hard time with this.
You said, "Oh, you look like you're in pain," and I said it's because I am, which I think I already said earlier.
Yeah.
In the podcast, but yeah,
I think so.
That's how much I hated it. I couldn't wait for it to be over.
Man, I am definitely docking at points for being self-indulgent and trying too hard to be artsy and trying too hard to tackle too many issues at once. I think there is a version of this film that is simpler, perhaps less graphic.
Read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's so much better in so many ways and does the job so much better.
I think trying to do it from a female perspective is interesting. Maybe a female director / writer should do that. I don't know who the writers were on this film, full disclosure. Maybe there were women involved in writing it. I don't know. I will have to do further research, or you can @ me on Twitter to correct me.
At Steam Powered Pod, folks.
Yes, I am stalling. I am going to give this film a 3 out of 5 top hats. I think it was interesting in a lot of ways. I think the setup was interesting. I think I enjoyed the ending parts of it. The maybe after 2/3, the last third, and some of the scenes we talked about.
You're entitled to your opinion.
And the quotes, the funny quotes. I think there's some good funny quotes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm giving it a 3. Please don't murder me with your eyes, your eye daggers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared. Well, this has been fun. Thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening to this podcast. This has been Steam Powered Movies. If you have any thoughts or feedback for us, you can reach out to us on Twitter at SteamPoweredPod or on Instagram and Threads at Steam Powered Movies. You can go to steampoweredmovies.com for full listing of our previous episodes and more information. Go to wordsbydana.com for more information about Dana's upcoming events and other things. And please don't forget, join the Discord. Go to the link in the description of this podcast. Join the Discord. Come chat with us. Give us your recommendations. Tell us what you thought. Let's have an interesting continued discussion about this film in the chat. We would love it. And join us next month for another new episode. We look forward to it. Thank you so much. Okay, bye.
Bye.